So we're coming near the conclusion of the Giving Birth to Your Greatness series. We are at part 5 today in the creative process, the judgment piece. And it's my proposition that judgment can be used as a lever to help manifest our greatness. You've heard me say it before, but it bears repeating. A disproportionate number of people are unaware of or believe that they are undeserving of the greatness that has been placed inside of them. And because we live out of our consciousness, what we believe about ourselves must show up in our life, world, and affairs. And the secret is that what I believe doesn't have to be true in order for me to experience the joy or the suffering of it. I am so powerful that my belief will shape my experience, and the thing that I believe does not have to be true. If I believe that I deserve to suffer, then somehow suffering finds me. If I believe that I ought not to be able to do what I want to do, then somehow I attract people who only want to do nothing with me. And so when we are unaware of or don't believe that we deserve the greatness that has been placed within our souls, we find ourselves walking around with a sense of low self-esteem. When we believe that we are not enough, it interrupts the divine flow and it impacts our ability to live out of the greatness that God has placed within us. I've heard it said this way: if you act like a minority, you will always be in the minority. But I'm excited because this morning we take a look at someone whose natural inclination was not to believe what was showing up. Today we celebrate someone who taught and fought and died trying to get the message to the masses that there is greatness in every one of us. Today we celebrate the life, the lessons, and the legacy of this great man, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. As a 20th century luminary, Dr. King spoke truth to power. He did it powerfully, and he did it prophetically. Dr. King helped to shift the dominant paradigm. He helped to change the old conversation, and he helped to transform the national consciousness and thereby lead the people of this country out of the despair of some very dark thinking. See, whenever you don't appreciate the divine potential that has been placed in the soul of the people, you run the risk of thinking you need to make something great that was already great. If you're not careful, you can try to take a country back to some place it never really was. It's that kind of thinking that undergirds dog whistle slogans like "Make America Great Again." It's that kind of thinking that devalues the greatness or overlooks the potential that the divine architect designed into the creation. You don't have to become great, you just let the great out. Are you with me? And so I appreciate Dr. King because his was one of the earliest and loudest voices saying that Black lives matter. Right? That shouldn't really be a thing that you have to remind anybody of. It ought to be self-evident that all life matters. But when you have to remind folk that Black life matter, what must happen in order to shift us to a place that we have to remind ourselves that life matters? Because it takes courage to stand out, even especially or particularly when it means you might have to stand alone. It takes courage to be willing to take the step the step that might be the step that gets you bust in the head with a brick, or the step that might be the step that gets you choked out by the cop, or the step that might be the step that has you leaning over the balcony just before the shot is fired. But what I want you to know is that that seed of greatness is not rare. Oh my God. It might be rarely recognized, but it's not rare. It might be rarely used, but it's not rare. Can I share a secret with you? That same seed of greatness is sitting next to you, or it might be sitting in front of you, or it might be sitting a couple seats down from you, or it might be sitting behind you. What you absolutely must know is that it's within you, but there is greatness all around you. Are you with me? And when we recognize it and have the courage to live out of it, so you heard me say it before, it's one thing to know you got it, right? It's one thing to be told that it's in you. It's another to be willing to risk, say risk, to risk what is required to live out of what's in you. See, anytime you say yes to your greatness, you run risk. Because everybody is not willing to stand around while you say you're great. Whenever you decide, Ken, to live out of your greatness, it's going to cost you some relationships. Because some people are only comfortable being able to see you as they remember you. They hit you with this. I remember when you were. Or I remember when we did. What you have to realize is that they can only see you through the paradigm that makes them most comfortable. Because sometimes your desire to stretch beyond me makes me uncomfortable. Because why the heck are you stretching and I'm staying right here? Are you with me? And so then, it's all of this that is wrapped up into this idea of greatness. But greatness is not, the expression of it is not easily attained. The expression of it cannot be transferred. The expression of it is not easily assumed. And it's not cheap. In order to live out of your greatness, you must know on the front end that not only might it cost you your time, it might cost you your life, and in some cases, it could lead to your death. If nothing else, it should lead to the death of the old you. How many of you know every death is not physical? Yeah. And so the question that has been before us during this series is, how do we give birth to our greatness? And another step that we have as a tool or at our disposal is the judgment step. Say judgment. Judgment is the ability to discern, evaluate, and come to decisions. Put that in your note. Judgment is our ability to discern, evaluate, and come to decisions. Judgment is the mental act of evaluation through comparison and contrast. And the faculty of judgment is exercised in one of two ways. The faculty of judgment can be exercised through my sensory perceptions, what I see, what I taste, what I hear, what I smell, what I touch. Those are all ways in which my judgment, say judgment, expresses. Through my sense or sensory perceptions. Another way that my judgment expresses is through my spiritual understanding. Say spiritual understanding. I believe I said earlier in this series that understanding doesn't function in the realm of form, it functions in the realm of ideas. Are you with me? And so then, when it comes to judgment, I might either judge by my senses or I might judge by my spiritual discernment. Let me say it to you again. When I use the power or the faculty of judgment, I might judge by my senses or I might judge by my spiritual understanding. When Dr. King was giving the I Have a Dream speech, he was in the flow of the speech, and this speech is largely considered to be one of the most powerful speeches in the 20th century. It is the I Have a Dream speech, but somehow, some way, all of the most key and critical and transformative elements of the speech were not in the original speech. See, when we use judgment, we can either judge by our senses or we can judge by spiritual judgment. None of the powerful closing remarks of every valley being exalted and every hill and mountain being made low, none of those things were in the original speech. There was no mention of letting freedom ring. There was no mention of sons of slaves and sons of former slaves owners. There was no mention of little black boys and little black girls playing together with little white boys and little white girls. Whenever we use our judgment, we have to determine if we will see from our senses or if we will see from spiritual understanding. But here is what I want you to know. There was a point in that speech in which Mahalia Jackson whispered to Dr. King. She said, "Doc, tell him about the dream." See, Dr. King was in the flow of what he had prepared through his senses. But Mahalia Jackson had caught wind of the dream. And listen, the dream that is possible has nothing to do with what you can see or what you can hear or what you can taste or what you can touch or what you can feel. The dream by which you judge has to be bigger than what you're going through right now, because here is what's possible to you. If you can help us see it, we can all come to be it. It was in his ability to help us see beyond what we were currently going through. It was in his ability to use his judgment to tap into the dream. And when he tapped into the dream, the world began to see a new possibility of what was available. Because the paradigm didn't necessarily exist before. The paradigm before was that you are superior, which means by default, I am inferior. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be inferior to nobody. And so Chester, when he decided to use the spiritual understanding to promote his judgment, rather than what he had prepared based upon what he saw, it forced us to all see it differently. It was a catalyst for how we all saw it differently. So sometimes when you're judging, you can't judge upon what shows up. I believe that's why Scripture says, judge rightly. Because if you judge based upon what's showing up, then the major factor is in what's showing up. And if you make all of your calculations based upon what's showing up, you can only use what's showing up to help you get to the result. But I believe if you change any factor in an equation, you have to end up with a different result. And so if instead of, when I look at my experience, if instead of using my senses, I use my spiritual understanding, if I interject spiritual understanding into the problem, I have to come up with a different solution. It's simple mathematics. Are you with me? And so we must learn how to use judgment as a lever to help manifest our greatness. Because when we shift from what's happening with our senses to what's happening in spirit, it shifts what's possible. It shifts what we have access to. Now, judgment calls us to three things. Judgment calls us to three things. Right judgment calls us to three things. The first is service. The first is service. Somebody say service. Say it again, service. Say it one more time. If Dr. King were among us today, I believe he would remind us of this quote. He said, everybody can be great, because anybody can serve. So you don't have to have a college degree in order to serve. So you don't even have to know how to make your subject and verb agree in order to serve. He said you only need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. See, life is the gift that God has given to each and every one of us. The degree to which we serve others is our gift back to God for the gift we've been given. I want you to know this. I want you to know this. And I want you to not just know it, but I want you to evaluate. The space you occupy in this world, my God, is in exact correlation and an exact ratio to the quality and quantity of the service you give. Let me say it to you again. The space you occupy in the world is in exact correlation and ratio to the quality and quantity of the service you give. You want your territory to be enlarged like Jabez? Figure out a way to help more people be great. You want more income? Figure out a way to help more people get more income. You want more spiritual development? Help more people become spiritually grounded. You want better relationships? Help other people learn how to understand how to get the most out of the relationships they have. You will have everything you want if you learn how to help enough people get what they want. They can't help but come see you and bless you when you're a blessing to them. See, here is what I know. I am better because people in this room served me. I don't know where I would be if people in this room hadn't served me. I don't know where I'd be if Walter Robinson hadn't poured into me. I don't know where I'd be if Alberta Ware hadn't taught me. I don't know where I'd be if Evelyn Boyd hadn't nurtured me. I don't know where I'd be if Frederick Randall hadn't prayed for me. See, sometimes you've heard me say it before, sometimes you have to be willing to use what other people see in you and use it as a catalyst. I don't know where I'd be if Helen Carey hadn't said to Johnny Coleman, that young man right there, I want to work with that young man. Because at that point, I was still showing up in leather pants and hot sweaters in the summertime. Blanche, I don't know what it was. It must have been the grace and the favor of the good Lord. Because I'm from the low end of the low end. So whatever she saw, whatever they saw, see, you never know how far your influence will go so long as you say yes to serving those who need your service. You just never know. You never know what's going to show up. And so I'm better because they served me. I'm a better servant of you because they served me. When Evelyn Boyd said to me, Reverend Dr. Evelyn Boyd said to me, don't play with this stuff. She gave us a quiz. I don't know if she still uses this in her class, but she gave us a pop quiz the first day back, and all of us did poorly. It was after the summer. She looked at me and she said, don't play with this stuff. She said, you'll be working with the minds and hearts of the people who are before you. This ain't nothing to play with. She said, if you're going to do it, then be serious about it. Which means just because it's summer doesn't mean you take the time off. She said, if you're going to do it, honor the people who are coming before you, even though you don't have a class yet. She said, if you're going to do it, be serious because they're going to take what you say and they're going to try to put it in their lives. And if you're not careful, you will tear somebody's life apart. Don't play with it. I've been a more serious and studious student ever since. Are you with me? And so, when Reverend Cooks prays for me, I get better. Are you with me? You got to be willing to give service, my God. Give yourself in service to others. Giving yourself in service to others creates the space and helps transform your experience right then and right there. Giving service to others can help manifest your increase. A couple years ago, some of you were headed to POT. And as we were on that way to the conference, while we were in flight, Gwen Bovan decided that she would ask one of the stewardess if she could serve the people of CUT. And the stewardess said yes. And Gwen, if you know anything about Gwen, she has a heart for service. She served her way to President Obama's White House. She served on GF3. She serves many of you, I'm sure. As a matter of fact, I think she's in D.C. serving right now. But while she was on this plane, she had such a heart for the service that the stewardess offered her a job. Now let me show you the real kicker. Around that same time, Southwest put out a call for new flight attendants. 10,000 people applied within the first 2 hours. They were only hiring 750 people. Because of Gwen's heart and aptitude for service, she would have gone right to the front of the line of the 750 and absolutely skipped over all of the 10,000. Just because she knows how to serve. You can serve your way to increase. Are you with me? The second thing that judgment calls us to do is to stand for justice. Dr. King said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so here, what I want to challenge you to do in your personal life is to make sure that you unlock the fairness. Say, unlock the fairness. Unlock the fairness. It's important that not only we fight and stand for systemic fairness, it's important that you have fairness in your own life. Here is what I mean. Some of you will forgive others and not forgive yourself. Some of you will give grace to others and you won't give that same grace to yourself. Some of you will give grace to yourself, but you won't give grace to others. Some of you will forgive you, but you won't forgive others. But you have to be willing to lock the unfairness so that your soul can be a hub for justice. Are you with me? That's on the micro level. On the macro level, we all have a responsibility to be a stand for justice. And when you're a stand for justice, you recognize that it's not fair to kill someone just because they're black. When you're a stand for justice, you recognize that it's not just okay to touch a woman when she doesn't want to be touched just because you're in a position of power. When you recognize that you must be a stand for justice, you understand that it's not okay to tell me to pull myself up by my bootstraps and then steal my boots. When you're a stand for justice, you recognize that it's important that wherever you are fair to yourself and to the people around you. Because here's the thing. Injustice anywhere. See, anywhere is not just in Washington, D.C. Is your table anywhere? Is the kitchen table you eat dinner at anywhere? Talk to me. Hold your hand up if you have a kitchen table. Can that kitchen table be described as being anywhere? All right. A threat to justice anywhere or injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. So injustice around your kitchen table is a threat to justice anyplace else. Are you with me? So you got to be willing to unlock the fairness. Last thing. In order to use judgment to manifest your greatness, to bring your greatness into fruition, you want to have a heart for gratitude. You want to have habits of gratitude. You see the quote there from Dr. King. He says, those who are not looking for happiness are the most likely to find it. Because those who are searching forget that the surest way to be happy is to seek happiness for others. want for others what you want for yourself, and be grateful about that. Albert Einstein says that there are two ways to live life. One is to see that nothing is a miracle, and the other is to see that everything is a miracle. And I agree with Martin today. If you woke up this morning and got started on your way, that's something to be great about. If in this very moment you inhale in and exhale out and it works like it was designed, that's something to be grateful about. If there's somebody close to you and they didn't hit you upside your head, that's something to be great about. If you feel loved in this space, that's something to be great about. We all have to be willing to find those things to be great about, because gratitude is one of the things that increases the flow of your good. You've got to be willing to search for it. Sometimes it's not obvious. So here, I want to give you this. I want to give you this. I want to give you my practice. I want to give you my practice. And it only takes a couple minutes every day. 3 things I want to encourage you to do. The first is just spend just a few minutes rehearsing the things that you are grateful for. I'm grateful for a loving wife. I'm grateful for children with a decent part of their right mind. I'm grateful for the ability to pay my bills. I'm grateful for creditors who will give me bills. I'm grateful for a community of faith that I love and who loves me. I'm grateful that we're situated in a community wherein we can be a light. I've got so much to be grateful for. I'm grateful that my mom never debilitated me, and she always helped me believe what I could do. I'm grateful for my grandmother, who always reinforced the lessons of my mother, who said, don't forget to say thank you. I'm just grateful. And I used to be, Reverend Ware, one of those people who would rehearse an argument. Like, I would wake up with an argument in my mind. Because I haven't always known how to deal with confrontation well. I'll tell you why, not now, I'll tell you why. But the other part is, I told you, I'm from the low end, and from the low end, we deal with confrontation differently. So rather than escalate to a 20, I keep it quiet at a 2. But how many of you know the fact that I keep it quiet doesn't mean it's not still stewing in my soul? And so I wake up 2 o'clock in the morning with an argument. Oh, I should have told him. Oh, I should have got him. Oh, that was my time to give it to him. Because I didn't resolve it then, it's still with me. I'm still rehearsing it. And then I started practicing gratitude. And it wasn't, I don't even know when it stopped, but I know it wasn't long. I just noticed I woke up and I wasn't arguing no more. I noticed I woke up and there was peace in my waking. I noticed that I woke up and my heart felt different. My heart was not rehearsing the old story about what could have been, but rather my soul was projecting out to what I could do and could be right there in that moment. Having a practice and a habit of gratitude shifted the inner workings of my soul, and I didn't even tell it to. Second thing I want to encourage you to do is just be grateful for your family and friends. Find something every day to be grateful about for your family and friends. I said, with me and Sweetie, just yesterday or the other day, I said, I'm so grateful that we can disagree. Look, I'm not going to look at her. I said, I'm so grateful that we can disagree and still be friends. She said, I better. Right? Because everybody can't disagree and still be friends. Some folk disagree, and that's the end of the relationship. She said, I need her. I do need you, baby. But I'm just grateful that when it comes to my family, that's one of the things we can do. I'm grateful. Part of my gratefulness family is you. I'm grateful for you. Come on, let's get out of here. Come on. So find something to have gratitude about in your everyday life. Find something to have gratitude about with your family and friends. And then find something to be grateful about what you're going to do that day. Just identify 1, 2, or 3 things at the most that you're planning to do that day. And then attach your heart of gratefulness to that. Attach your heart of gratefulness to it. Infuse the plans and the desires that are working, that God is working in you. Infuse it with gratitude. Infuse it with increase. When you infuse it with gratitude and increase, you magnetize it. And when you magnetize it, it's got to start moving to you. Are you with me? So be grateful. Stand for justice. Give service. If you'll do those things, you will again ignite the greatness that has been placed in your soul. And when you ignite the greatness that has been placed in your soul, God can't help but work through you in powerful and exceedingly great ways. Amen and amen.